Hey, so I am here with gorgeous Sonia, like one of the most glamorous women I've ever met in my life. Absolutely love you. So we met back in October when I was giving a talk in London about my Take Your Cape Off talk, about not being a hero, not swooping in and kind of doing things for people. And I'll get you to introduce yourself in a second, Sonia, but we connected. We had some sort of common interests, and I'm going to be explaining one of the key concepts that we use in coaching to Sonia and how it applies in your life. So, Sonia, introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do.
Oh, hi, Chloe. I'm so glad to be here. Love you to bits. I love the work that you do. I am the identity coach for high achieving women with alcoholic partners, and I activate them to stop coping and start choosing themselves for a thriving and fulfilled life. And I have 20 lived years experience of living with an alcoholic husband. He's now 10 and a half years sober, and I praise my higher power for that. Life before that was challenging, but now I found my serenity, my peace, and my joy, and I've reclaimed my identity. And I want the same for all of the women that I come across and help.
Yeah, and it's hard going. So I'm about 3.5 years sober myself, and I cared for my dad who was an alcoholic. So yeah, it's all very close to my heart what you do. So
Perfect.
the thing I want to talk about, so I'll just start off just kind of explaining the concept. So this is from Transactional Analysis, which we were just saying is hard to say. And it's called ego states. So it's basically that we will have different kind of versions of ourselves within us. But I'll just to explain transactional analysis, like in the briefest way, this is about when we interact with people, we expect certain things back. And so when we perceive that we're being attacked, we will respond defensively, even if that person wasn't intending it as an attack. So we act in defense and then they turn into attack mode. And it's also things about, like, if you see your neighbor in the street and normally you would stop and have a chat, and they don't, they just wave, and you maybe feel a bit like, oh, like, do they hate me? And so like you don't get the interaction that you were expecting, essentially. And so one of the theories from this is called the drama triangle, which I talk about all the time. So this is being like the hero, the victim, or the persecutor, or the villain. And the idea of that is that lots of us in these sorts of healing coaching kind of jobs, we like being the hero. We are quite happy to come in and save the day, but actually recognizing that that is pushing the other person back into victim mode. We're reinforcing the idea they're not good enough, they can't do it for themselves. And when we're coaching properly, it's not that at all. It's about empowering them and showing them that they can make the changes for themselves. They can be the creator of their own destiny. And the trouble is, when we do end up in that hero mode, we can very quickly move around that triangle. So once you're in the triangle, you get stuck. So you go in as the hero, but then the person doesn't appreciate your support. So then you start feeling like a victim and they're the persecutor, or they start seeing you as a persecutor and they're still the victim because you're like forcing them to do stuff they don't want to do. So that's the drama triangle, very briefly. The thing I really want to talk about today is the ego states. And so this is parent, adult, child. Sometimes it's just called parent, adult, child. And so the idea of this is that if we behave in a parental way, then the other person will respond like a child. If we behave like a child, they will respond like a parent. But if we can be in our logical, rational, adult mode, then they will join us there. Because if you're being a logical, rational, reasonable adult and they are being like a bossy parent or an over nurturing parent or a rebellious child, they're going to look like kind of an idiot. Right. So eventually they will join us there. But the challenge is in staying there. And that is obviously where we want to be as a coach all the time. And so there's two types of parents. So one that I think that, the partners of alcoholics that you're dealing with. So one of them can be very critical, telling their partner, like, you must stop drinking. You should do this. Why didn't you do this? You must do this. You have to do this. Alternative Alternatively, they might be really nurturing, like, I can see you're really, really struggling, like really enabling them, like, I'll get you a drink, I can see that you need it, you've had a hard day, don't worry, let me do that for you, let me go and apologize to those people you upset last night. Like, so overly strict or overly nurturing. And in response, they will respond as the child, which is very rebellious, like, I'm not going to do what you say, you're telling me what to do, there's no way I'm going to do what you tell me to do. Or totally fawning, like, yes, I'll do whatever you tell me. And none of this is good. So we want to be remembering to stay in that adult phase and not falling into that hero mindset either. So that is transactional analysis in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And so I guess my first question to you is, how can you see this showing up maybe in your relationships with your clients, or in your clients' relationships with their partners, or any other area of your life? Like, does this relate to you?
It absolutely does, Chloe. I mean, I've never heard of transactional
Analysis. Yeah, it's a
transactional
mouthful. It's a
analysis.
mouthful.
Yes. Yeah. But I can definitely see that some of the women that I speak to and I help, they act out that, that controlling. They think that it's their place and they've got a right to take control of the situation. They tell their partner what to do. They shame their partner. They think that's going to help the situation, not realizing and understanding what their partner's going through. So a lot of the women I speak to are not showing empathy, and understandably they've been hurt.
Yeah.
They've been in this place where they've lost themselves, that they've focused so much on their partner that they've neglected their own needs. So they've taken on these multiple identities, and it's so easy to slowly see that you're eroding, that the erasure of self is so evident, but you only see that when somebody else
You
shows
can't see
you.
it. I
You
heard
can't
this
see it.
lovely phrase, you can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yeah,
Like, it's so
exactly.
true. And I
Yeah.
think it is that, with alcohol particularly, but like with lots of other things, but a lot of people really struggle with feelings of guilt and shame, and the way they deal with it is drinking. So if you are guilting and shaming somebody for drinking, the only way at that point that they know how to deal with it is to drink more, which means more guilt and shame. It's just an endless spiral. And I think with most things we recognize, right, like, the answer is about being the creator of your own destiny, taking responsibility for yourself, pouring the love into yourself instead of pouring it out to everyone else. And it starts, exactly the work that you're doing. It starts with that partner working on themselves and, trusting that their alcoholic partner is going to want to keep up with them when they see the positive changes that they're making. And I know obviously, you and your husband have totally made it work, and like, that's a great outcome, but sometimes that's not the right outcome, right? Like, sometimes it's not possible.
I do have
And
my challenges,
yeah,
because
I'm sure you
he's
do.
10 and a half years sober, but
Yeah.
sometimes I do find I'm defaulting into my old patterns. Like,
Yeah.
I do, oh, have you got your phone? Have you got your wallet? And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I'm trying to be the caretaker again.
Right, so let's get into this now.
Yeah.
So where can you see, so the transactional analysis stuff, where can you see yourself getting drawn into that, like exactly what you've just described, like being that parental, he's a grown man, if he can remember to take his phone, or he can deal with the consequences if he forgets it. So how can you see yourself falling into these patterns?
It's very hard to, I've trained my brain to unlearn all of the old patterns that I used to fall into on a daily basis. So it's taken me a very long time to retrain and reprogram my brain to not default into those patterns. But sometimes I do have a little bit of a wobble, but I know that I'm held because I've got the tools, I've learnt the strategies to hold myself tight so that I know that any triggers, and I know myself well enough because I've had the time to sit with myself as part of my healing and my own recovery journey. I focused on myself. I've shown myself unconditional love. So I wrap myself with all of that. And I know that any triggers that I can see coming, I want to be a few steps down the road, so ahead of myself. So I know that when they come and I see those triggers, that I know that I'm held with the strategies and tools that I've learned
And
over
sometimes
over
it's
time.
forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Because marriage is hard.
Mm.
And sometimes, like you say, you are gonna slip into, like, despite all the work you've done, like inevitably it's going to happen sometimes. So it's like forgiving yourself, learning from it. And so when that does happen, when you do slip back into old patterns like that, what's the impact of that? So do you have an argument? Does he storm out? Like, what's the impact, like, or are you able to kind of recognize it quickly and pull it back?
I recognize it quickly and pull back. Sometimes I don't put it back in time. And then it does have like a detrimental effect on him because he says, hang on, there you go again. Sonia, I know I'm quite capable. I've got my phone, I've got my wallet, and I'm thinking, and I feel as if, oh God, I'm stepping back in time, and I feel like I've let myself down, and I've let him down.
And so what happened when you feel like you've let yourself and when you've let him down? What feelings does that lead to? Like, what happens next?
Yeah, I just have to take a step back. Sometimes I have a little bit of a cry. And I think, that's the old me. This is like the old version of me. And I try to talk to the old version of me and say, look, it's okay. You're going to have a wobble. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Let's get back on track. And that's how I self-talk and acknowledge that the old me sometimes is just a part of who I am.
Yeah. And I think, and it's also a sign of, even though it still happens, sometimes it's a reminder of how far you've come. Like that's a positive, that's something to be celebrated. So you mentioned, like, before we hit record, you mentioned about, obviously you're dealing with clients who are potentially kind of still in the midst of it, and it's very difficult, very emotional, very draining for them, and how sometimes it's hard not to take that on for yourself, and boundaries and things like that. So I'm curious about, with what I've explained about, like, the drama triangle and parent, adult, child, how can you take that knowledge now into kind of protecting your own boundaries and energy levels when working with people who are in a difficult situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, that there are times when I do find myself being an empath, just taking on somebody else's emotions. But I know, and I can spot that very quickly. And my immediate reaction is to, as hard as it is, just separate the Sonia, my person behind closed doors, from the coach, and not be ashamed that, these feelings are taking over. I'd like to take a step back. I recognize when I'm going through that phase, and I can spot them very quickly now. And I allow myself, I give myself grace to just take time out, shut down the computer, don't answer my phone, just take some alone time, have some me time. And that's so important. It doesn't matter if I go for a long walk, if it's just an hour meditation. I might watch on Netflix. Love my movies, just to really recalibrate. So that's so important, with the work that I do, because I deal with a lot of women who are still traumatized by their situation. And it's important that not only am I supporting them, but obviously taking care of me as well.
Yeah, totally.
Mm,
And in coaching, we talk about detaching from the outcome. Like the client's
mm,
outcome is their responsibility, and
yeah.
like you are there to guide and support and empower and
Mm,
motivate and all those things. But ultimately, their outcome is their own responsibility. And I think, like I'm thinking of other examples and even like films and books and things where there's like maybe some kind of abusive relationship and you're like, well, you obviously need to leave and you
yeah.
can't say that. And maybe you feel sad or frustrated that
Mm,
they're not seeing that for themselves or they're not
mm,
taking action on it. But it is that like it's their life. I'm here
mm,
in the way they want it to use me and like whatever they're ready for and like
mm,
meeting them where they are right now. And sometimes that is easier than other times, isn't it? And it is all about having that space afterwards to reflect and
mm,
and learn from it. But
yeah.
I think particularly in the work that you're doing, I can see that could be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you
um
should say that. Someone did, who I was speaking to, she reached out to me about a month ago, and we were going backwards and forths in my DMs, and she reached out and said, "Oh, why didn't you just leave?" And I thought, oh, and that really threw me
yeah, yeah.
because I
If it was that
often,
simple, you would have done
yeah,
it.
I would have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is something like from the talk that I gave in London about when you so this another kind of this we're just hitting all the key coaching lessons here. So when you give advice, it can be received by the other person like, so people will say something like that, like it's so simple, and it's
Mm,
like, do you really think that I couldn't think of that myself,
mm,
or do you really think I'm like not capable of doing that myself, or do you really think I haven't tried that already?
mm,
Like, and so when we give advice and it's like, oh, you should just do this, like it's so simple, actually you're pushing them more into that victim mode. That's where
mm,
you're becoming the persecutor and like another person that's against them, another person that's challenging them, another like, and we don't want to be that. We want to be there by their side and
mm,
help them to be the
yeah.
creator of their own destiny.
Mm,
And then also just for our own protection as coaches, right? Like if you're giving out advice and then they follow it and it doesn't work out, then they're going to blame you. And again,
mm,
you're the persecutor. But if you are helping them find their own way,
mm,
they're taking it on, they're empowered, they are growing, like they're responsible for their own mistakes and learning from their own
mm,
mistakes. Like that is the best way to learn, right? Like
yeah.
we have to make
Exactly.
mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's just this is such fundamental stuff, like just remembering however hard someone's got it, like you can do more for them by not being the hero.
Mm, yeah.
And I think just a disclaimer that like in some of the situations you're talking about where maybe it is like violent and abusive and
Mm,
maybe they really are stuck and they do need someone to come in
yeah.
and rescue them, like because they're
Mm,
at that kind of level, but probably that's not your job. You're working
no.
with them remotely, but you
Mm,
might be empowering them to like get brave and ask for that kind of support.
yeah.
And unfortunately, realistically, when you're charging for support, the people that are really, really in the thick of it are probably not going to be accessing this kind
Mm,
of support anyway, unfortunately.
yeah.
So yeah, like having that understanding of who your clients actually are
Mm,
as
yeah.
well. So is there anything, so from this conversation, is there anything that you can take away that you're really going to remember that's going to help you both to like serve your clients in the best possible
Mm,
way and protect your own boundaries? What's your
yeah.
kind of one takeaway?
I was just going to say, just added to what something you said earlier, Chloe, as well, just a moment ago. You said about, the reason why we're serving our clients. There are sometimes situations where I'm working with someone, and then within the first couple of weeks or so, I realize that they're not ready
Yeah,
to do the work. They say that they think they're ready, but they're not ready to do the work. And sometimes even in my messaging, even if I go live, I always stipulate that if you're ready to do the inner work, so I know that I'm getting the right people,
yeah,
attracting the right people to work with. Otherwise, it's too draining,
yeah,
and they're in a place of anger, frustration, and
they're in that victim space.
They're in that victim space, and they cannot get out of it. They're not ready to work, to do that inner work and do the inner reflection.
And I think as well, like,
that's one of my takeaways.
I tried to quit drinking so many times, like so many people, I'm sure, you know, you wake up in the morning, I'm never drinking again, then literally like lunchtime, pint in the beer garden. I tried so many times, and it wasn't that anything was different. Like, I didn't have some like awful rock bottom thing, but it was, I was ready to do it. Like, I actually wanted it, and I believed it was possible. And so, once I was there, it was easy. But until I was there, I was fighting a losing battle all the time. And every time I was trying to stop and then failing at it, I was like reinforcing the idea, like, I'm not capable of this, it's not worth it. And so that readiness, but also meeting people where they are. So they might not be ready to make massive changes, but maybe there are small things that they're ready for. And it's meeting them there, and then it kind of snowballs from that. So once you've made one small change and you've seen that that's possible for you, then what else can you do? And that's a big part of it. So celebrating those small wins.
Yeah. And also as well, added to what you were saying about the
transactional
analysis about the, you know, sometimes I find that I'm always conscious that because of the work and the women that I work with, I'm sometimes conscious as a coach and somebody who's had that lived experience, who's walked through the fire, she's risen like the phoenix. And sometimes that can be intimidating, because if someone sees, you know, oh my God, she's larger than life. So I try to remind myself that I'm not better than the next person. You know, I walked that path just like they are now. I'm not superior, I'm not special. But sometimes some of the women, I can feel that what they say and their responses, that they do feel a little bit intimidated. And that's a struggle when I coach as well. As a coach, I find that quite challenging.
And I don't, you know, I'm sure you know this, you know, that's not about you, it's about their own sense of self-worth, because they are being beaten down, like physically or mentally. They're being beaten down and told, you know, made to feel small and this. And so they can feel easily intimidated, no matter how generous and lovely you might be. And it's still huge. If they've got to the point they're having a conversation with you, they are already starting to overcome that and see their self-worth. And isn't that just so magical? Like, it's like when someone's like, okay, I'm ready, like, this has been going on for too long, I've had enough, I'm ready to change. And recognize it's them that needs to change.
My heart leapt then when you said that. The work we do is amazing.
To change. It's not about, I'm ready to change my husband, like I've had it, like I need a new tactic to make him change. It's I'm ready to work on myself. And that is beautiful and magical. It is. It's priceless. It's so wonderful. And I think there is this, and so in coaching again, we talk about unconditional positive regard. So it's recognizing, even if somebody is really, really struggling in a million ways, they are still a valid, worthy human being. And you, even as the expert and the coach and the person that's supporting them, you are still going to learn from them as much as they're going to learn from you. Like that's, you're developing your skills, you're seeing new perspectives. Like you are gaining as much from them as they are getting from you. And like,
absolutely.
And even, you know, little things that you can do sometimes in that situation is actually like asking them to help you, like to show them their self-worth. So perhaps you have just learned a new coaching tool and you've not tried it on anyone, and you ask them, like, can I practice this with you, because that will really help me out, I really value your feedback. And instantly you're getting valuable feedback, but they are feeling valuable. And so these small things that we can do to help boost that. But, you know, by the time they're having a conversation with us, they're already on that journey.
That's a start.
It's getting them at the right point of the journey where they are ready to commit. And ultimately, they're not going to hand over money if they don't think they're capable of the change. If they don't if they don't believe it's possible for them, they're not going to be giving you any money. So it's, you know, and I know your Facebook group is free, isn't it? So you are there for, and there's that level of support, and then hopefully, they get to a point where they are ready.
Yeah.
And they want more. But in the meantime, like, they're going to get so much value out of being in that group and seeing that they're not alone. They're not the only one that's dealing with it, and sadly, they're not.
They're not. No.
Yeah.
And as women, we're always like, it's, we're taught to, be that caregiver, be, outpour all of the love to, give that all to somebody else. Don't use your voice. I mean, when I was growing up, I was always told by my dad, you're too loud, because out of all my siblings, I knew that I was meant for something more. And I just tore up that rule book, and I was the rebellious one. I was the black sheep. And I was always questioning from a very early age. I'd read a lot, and I'd find time by myself. I've got a twin sister, and she used to get on my nerves. And and I grew up with four sisters and one brother, and I was always like told that you'd never amount to anything, you're useless, and I always used to get punished more than everybody else. So yeah, playing that victim mode, yes, I was guilty of it. But I think as women, we're taught to, we're too much, So the work that I do, and obviously what you do as well, Chloe, I think it's so magical just to know that you can have the power to transform somebody's life.
Yeah.
But somebody's
I think so where you've given it some examples of where you were kind of in that victim state, and when you feel like that, there's a big part of you that it's like, I want someone to come in and swoop in and just save me and make it all better. But that people might try, and you like, oh no, it's all fine, don't diminish it. But B, you are where you are because you built resilience and you got experience because you got out of there yourself. You created your own destiny. No one, you don't have, that you did that for yourself, and that is priceless.
Yeah.
No one else can do that. No one else can give you that. And like I say, sometimes, we are talking about potentially, victims in the most real sense of that word. And that is a different thing. But those people are very unlikely at that point of their journey. They're very unlikely to be working with you. It's more likely that they've been in that state, they've escaped it, and then they come to you. So it's, that work is really important too, but it's probably not the work that you're actually doing. And so recognizing that, knowing if people do come to you and they're there, like, what services can you signpost them onto, and like knowing who it is appropriate to work with, and we talk about people being coachable, but also being there for them if you're the person they feel safe reaching out to, being that, but then making sure that they're in the right program for them, getting the right support.
Exactly. Yeah. Meeting them where they are.
So much. Absolutely loved chatting with you. Is there anything you would like to say to finish us off?
Yes, just go out there, be your authentic self. Don't always believe AI. Just be yourself.
I love that. I love a little anti-AI finish there, because it does my head in.
Yeah, it does my head in too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Pleasure.